Hello everyone, welcome to Lukmaan IAS. Today we are going to have the Hindu newspaper analysis dated 17th of December 2023. In today's newspaper analysis, we are going to cover a mapping topic and also we are going to discuss the most important articles from the newspaper. And as you know, every Sunday the Hindu comes up with the science and technology areas also. So today in the newspaper there are many important articles that range from international relations to science and technology to Indian polity, and also other areas have been covered. So we are going to discuss about these topics today. So let us quickly see the list of articles that we are going to discuss in today's newspaper analysis. So these are the list of articles that we are going to cover in today's analysis. So now let us first cover the first topic, which is a mapping topic. And through these mapping topics, basically, we want to assist all those candidates who are preparing for the prelims exam. Because in every year, right, UPSC asks questions from the mapping topic also. And many people are not able to solve mapping related topics. It requires regular practice. It requires consistent practice. And if you do one mapping topic every day, right, till the prelims exam, you will be able to solve most of the questions from the mapping area as well. So let us discuss the first topic. All right. So good morning, Hari Krishna. Thank you so much for joining. So let us discuss the first topic, which is Gulf of Aden. Okay, we are going to discuss about Gulf of Aden. So this Gulf of Aden was in news in today's newspaper. So that's why we have thought of discussing this mapping area, right, from the mapping perspective itself. So this is the location of Gulf of Aden, as we can see, right? This is location of Gulf of Aden. And here it is important for us to remember that, to the west of Gulf of Aden, we have Africa. And this portion of Africa, from here to here, this portion of Africa is known as Horn of Africa. Okay, it is known as Horn of Africa. So Gulf of Aden just lies adjacent to Horn of Africa. Okay. And Gulf of Aden is little bit south to Yemen. Yemen is a country which remains in news because of many reasons, right? Yemen is, let's say, the southernmost country in Arabian Peninsula, all right? So in Arabian Peninsula, we have Saudi Arabia, we have Oman, we have Yemen, we have Qatar, we have, let's say, United Arab Emirates, etc. So yesterday also we discussed the location of these countries, the Gulf countries, right? So today what we are going to do is, we are going to see where is the Gulf of Aden located. So Gulf of Aden is located, let's say, to the north of Somalia, we see, and just to the south of Yemen. And it also shares border with, let's say, Djibouti. Djibouti is a very important country, right? So when there were war going on in Yemen, some kind of civil or internal war was going on in Yemen. So government of India has evacuated Indian nationals from Yemen. And they have evacuated from, let's say, from Djibouti, basically, our armed forces, like Indian Air Force, Indian Navy, they went to Djibouti and Indian nationals were brought over here, and from here they, let's say, brought back Indian nationals from the war-torn country, all right? So apart from Gulf of Aden, there is some other important regions also. One of the region is Bab el Mandeb, okay? This is, let's say, I'm going to write over here, this is known as Bab el Mandeb. So why is Bab el Mandeb important? This is a strait, okay? This is a narrow channel of water that connects Red Sea with Gulf of Aden, okay? It connects Red Sea with Gulf of Aden. This strait is known as Strait of Bab el Mandeb. This is very important strait, okay? So it is important that you remember these locations, Bab el Mandeb, Gulf of Aden, Red Sea. And today Red Sea was again in news. We are going to cover the mapping of Red Sea, let's say, in detail also today, right? So we are going to see which country shares border with Red Sea. That becomes important, right? So we are going to discuss about it. Again, let's say if we zoom into this particular region, which is Gulf of Aden, we will come across a map like this, okay? So here, this is let's say Gulf of Aden. Just to the right of Gulf of Aden, we have Arabian Sea. In fact, Arabian Sea is also in news today. Okay, we are going to discuss about that as well. So this is Bab el Mandeb. Strait of Bab el Mandeb connects Gulf of Aden with Red Sea. Okay, Djibouti is over here. Djibouti is over here. This is the thing. So with this, let us now go and look into the first article, right? We are going to discuss the first article from the newspaper. So we have directly, let's say, picked up the FAQ section, frequently asked questions section from the Hindu newspaper. So in this section, basically the Hindu comes up with detailed explanation on some of the most important recent happenings that are happening, right? So this is the thing. So it says, is the world closer to phasing out fossil fuels, right? We are going to discuss about this topic. So this topic is going to be important under environment and ecology section, right? It is going to be important under environment and ecology section. We are going to discuss about many recent things that are associated with this one. So name of the topic is topic number 1. Name of the topic is the world closer to phasing out fossil fuel? Is the world closer to phasing out, right? Is the world closer to phasing out fossil fuel? So let's understand about this topic. It is a very important topic under environment and ecology. So relevance of this topic is from environment and ecology section. So which is going to be important for the prelims exam, and it's also important for the mains exam. So when you are preparing for mains under GS paper 3, we have environment and ecology, right? So we are going to discuss about this topic from that perspective. So is the world closer to phasing out fossil fuels? We need to understand what are fossil fuels, right? We need to understand why we need to phase out fossil fuels. So let us quickly understand what are fossil fuels, right? What are fossil fuels? Basically, fossil fuels are those, let's say, like, are those resources, right? These are those fuels, resources that are extracted from the ground, that are extracted from, let's say, like, digging the ground. So basically many countries like Gulf countries, they are bestowed with the natural resources of petroleum, of fossil fuel. So they dig it, let's say, like, from the underground, and after extracting it, they, let's say, like, they refine it. After refining, they are able to extract various different types of fossil fuels, means like, Brent oil or crude oil. And from the crude oil, we extract petroleum, we extract, let's say, diesel, we extract different kind of oil, aviation turbine fuel, etc. So many different types of fuels are derived from fossil fuels. Why we say them as fossil fuels? Because these fuels have been made, right, when fossils, right, that got submerged, right, fossils that got submerged, and they have stayed underground for over thousands and thousands of years. And these fossils have turned into fuels, right? So these fuels are being used, these fuels are being extracted. So the thing is, there are very less number of natural reservoirs of fossil fuels, and mostly these are located in the Gulf countries, these are located in Russia, these are located in United States of America. So there are few countries that are, let's say, bestowed with the natural resources like fossil fuel. So these fossil fuels that we derive, right, so they are exhaustible, okay? They are exhaustible form of, let's say, energy. Exhaustible form of energy means, like, fossil fuels are limited. The more they are extracting, the more they are depleting. After some time, maybe over a period of next few decades, the reserve of fossil fuel will be drained out from within the earth, and after then we will not be having any, let's say, like, fossil fuel derived energy. So, but this is not only the concern that it is exhaustible form of energy, right? It is exhaustible form of resource. I'm just writing, instead of energy, I'm writing it resource, right? It is not only because of this factor that this is exhaustible that we are worried. We are worried because these fossil fuels, when they are used, right, they have a capacity of emitting greenhouse gases, right? They emit greenhouse gases, and greenhouse gases include carbon dioxide, methane, carbon monoxide, etc. Right? So there are many various greenhouse gases that are emitted because of the usage of fossil fuels. And fossil fuel derived, for example, one of the most potent greenhouse gas is carbon dioxide. It is the most potent greenhouse gas. Okay, it is the most potent greenhouse gas. Potent greenhouse gas means the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is, let's say, it is increasing, and carbon dioxide has the potential of trapping heat waves. Okay, for example, let's say this is the earth, right? This is the earth. On the top of earth, let me just quickly draw, right? This is the earth, and this earth is, let's say, enveloped by an envelope of gas, and this is known as atmosphere. So in the atmosphere we have various types of gas that are suspended, right? So these include various types of gas, the gas carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, for example, etc. So they are greenhouse gases, and because of presence of these gases generally trap, let's say, heat waves. What these gases do, they trap heat waves. Since they trap heat waves, right, they tend to warm up the environment, which leads to, right, which leads to global warming, which leads to global warming. But why global warming is so much cause of concern? Why global warming is so much cause of concern? We are going to discuss about that also, right? Why global warming is so much cause of concern. To understand this, let us understand what is global warming. So we understood what is global warming, basically the envelope of gas that is there on the top of the earth, right? This constitutes various gases, so they trap heat energy. Since they trap heat waves, so they lead to, let's say, warming of the globe. And warming of the globe has many negative consequences associated with it. One of the negative consequence is, let's say, melting of glaciers. What? Melting of glaciers happen. Melting of glaciers. Why we are talking about melting of glaciers? Because once again, if I draw the map of earth, let's say, this is our earth. So to the north pole and south pole of earth, to the north pole and south pole of earth, we have huge deposits of ice, right? We have huge deposits of ice. So we find ice deposits in north hemisphere as well as southern hemisphere, and these ice, let's say, have slowly and gradually they have the tendency of moving also. So they form glaciers, and since they form glaciers, these glaciers are, let's say, earlier the thickness of the glacier used to be very high, but recently a report was released by the World Meteorological Organization, WMO. World Meteorological Organization has said that glaciers are, right, glaciers are retreating. Okay, glaciers are retreating. Retreating means the thickness of the glacier is, let's say, coming down, and because of which ice is melting. And since ice is melting, this ice is finally draining into oceans, right? And since they are draining into oceans, the ocean level or sea level is going up. Since sea level is going up, all those countries that are island countries, that are island nations, so these countries are on the verge of submergence. So they are facing existential crisis. They are facing existential threat because of global warming. All this is because of global warming, and global warming is because of this particular event of, let's say, using of fossil fuels by different countries. And those countries, the developed countries, are the main culprit because they are the ones who have emitted huge amount of, let's say, greenhouse gases in their path for development. Now what the world is doing, right? So related to this, we need to understand what steps are being taken. Basically what has happened, long back, the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, right? So this is a kind of convention that was established, and under this in 1995, right, in 1995, they have, let's say, they have hosted the first conference of parties, the conference of parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. at that point of time, they have recognized what is global warming. They have discussed what is global warming. But the thing is, they know what is global warming, but at the same time, they did not attribute global warming to greenhouse gas emission, right? They did not connect it with fossil fuel usage, right? Usage of fossil fuel or extraction of fossil fuel. Even in the recent Conference of Party that has happened, recently Conference of Party 28 has happened in Dubai. So where is Dubai located? Dubai is located in the United Arab Emirates. So there they have, let's say, released a document which is known as agreement, and this agreement is known as the Dubai Consensus. Okay, it is known as the Dubai Consensus. In the Dubai Consensus, which is, let's say, the outcome of this particular Conference of Parties, COP28, to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. In the Dubai Consensus, although, let's say, like, they have done what? They have acknowledged, okay? They have acknowledged that fossil fuels are mainly responsible for causing global warming, right? They have acknowledged that fossil fuels, right? Fossil fuels are mainly responsible for causing global warming, But the thing is, are different countries ready to phase out fossil fuel? So in this article, they answer this particular topic, because name of the topic is the world closer to phasing out fossil fuel? So the thing is, world is not closer to phasing out, let's say, fossil fuel. Why? Because fossil fuels have been in use for decades. Let's say many countries have been using fossil fuel for a long period of time, and as we all know that fossil fuels are exhaustible form of resources. They will get exhausted after some time. So that's why different countries are thinking of, let's say, coming up with alternative sources of energy. What are alternative sources of energy? That's why people are thinking of coming up with renewable sources of energy, right? Renewable sources of energy. Renewable sources of energy are those sources of energy that will be renewed, so that are not going to get exhausted, right? Renewable sources of energy. So let me quickly talk about what are renewable sources of energy. However, they did not discuss much about renewable sources of energy in the Dubai Consensus document. So one of the renewable sources of energy is, let's say, solar energy, right? Solar energy. So we can use solar irradiation for charging the, let's say, like, batteries, and these batteries will light up our homes, right? That can be used as sources of electricity. But the thing is, solar energy is not available throughout the day and night, and it's not equally distributed across the world. Why? Because when we talk about solar energy, so we have to stay dependent on the kind of solar, let's say, solar radiation. We need to depend ourselves on solar radiation, right? But the thing is, solar radiation is not evenly coming on the earth. So some places on the earth, let's say, like, that are near the equator. So near the equator, to the Tropic of Cancer, and to the south, Tropic of Capricorn. So this is the area where we get maximum amount of solar energy, directly solar waves, let's say, like, light directly comes up, and the maximum extent is, let's say, like, it is 23.5 degree to the north and 23.5 degree to the south. So this 23.5 degree to the north, this line is known as Tropic of Cancer. This is known as Tropic of Cancer, and this 23.5 degree to the south, it is known as Tropic of Capricorn. Tropic of Capricorn. So Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn talks about the maximum limit up to which solar radiation can fall directly on the surface of Earth. So if we go to the north of Tropic of Cancer or to the south of Tropic of Capricorn, we find slanted, let's say, solar radiation. So there the solar radiation is available very less, and those people also have requirement of energy. So the thing is, requirement of energy cannot solely be met using solar energy, because the thing is, to harness the solar energy, you need to have the installed capacity, right? You need to have photovoltaic cells, you need to have solar cells, right? But like there are limited infrastructure capacity to harness the potential of solar energy. Similar, if we talk about wind energy, right? If we talk about wind energy, so people do use windmills for generation of energy, but it also depends on the vagaries of the season. Means like there can be time when air is blowing. When air is blowing, those wind energy turbines, they will be moving. If those blades are moving only, then it will lead to generation of energy. Otherwise, let's say when there is no wind, so like less energy will be generated. This is the thing. Similar is the case with geothermal energy, right? When we talk about geothermal energy, similar is the case, right? So they are, let's say, much infrastructure has not been developed yet, okay? So that's why different countries around the world, they are looking for finding out alternative sources of energy. So are we closer to phasing out the, let's say like, fossil fuels? No, we are not closer to phasing out fossil fuels. But the Dubai Consensus is a significant document. Why? Because for the first time, they had acknowledged that because of fossil fuel, greenhouse gas emission happens, and because of which, let's say, global warming happens. And because of global warming, different countries are on the verge of getting submerged. And not only though island nations are affected, because of global warming, the, let's say, pattern of climate change, it has changed. Many species have got wiped out, right? They got extinct, and many other species are on the verge of getting extinct, right? So people are not able to cope up with the changed climate. It is also leading to pollution, right, at different levels. So it is an urgent call that these countries should come together to take some concrete action, okay? So this is the thing. And when we talk about, let's say, reducing the global warming, already we discussed about one very important thing. So like, the call for, let's say, limiting the global warming has been taken for the first time in Paris Agreement, where it has been taken for the first time in the Paris Agreement. So Paris Agreement was signed in 2015. It also was signed in a conference of party that was held earlier in 2015. In Paris Agreement, different countries have agreed upon, right? So they had taken a target. They had taken a target, or we can say goal, and this goal was related to reducing the global warming. And how? On one side, they have said like we will limit the global warming to 1.5 degrees centigrade as compared to pre-industrial level. And if it is not possible in that case, we will definitely not let the global warming go beyond 2 degrees centigrade as compared to pre-industrial level. And these targets, I mean, like, have to be 100% met by before the end of this century. So this is Paris Agreement, okay? So according to Paris Agreement, they have also agreed upon to come up with a report which is known as Global Stocktake Report, okay? It is known as Global Stocktake Report. So what do we mean by this Global Stocktake Report? Basically, stocktake means accounting, doing an analysis in terms of accounting, finance and all. So that like how much target was taken by these countries and what portion of those targets were actually achieved. That is Global Stocktake Report. In the Paris Agreement, these countries have taken a target that every 5 years, right, soon after adoption of the Paris Agreement, we are going to come up with Global Stocktake Report. The first report had to be released in 2020, but due to COVID-19 pandemic, it got delayed. And for the first time in Dubai Conference of Party, the Conference of Party 28 that is happening in Dubai, there they have come up with Global Stocktake Report. In the Global Stocktake Report, simply what they have done, they have brought together all the scientific evidences, all the studies that have been conducted that hint towards global warming because of usage of fossil fuel and all. So available scientific literature related to climate change has been brought together under the Global Stocktake Report, okay? So this agreement, which is, let's say, the Dubai Consensus, is a very significant one, because at this point of time, they have, let's say, pinpointed that what is responsible for global warming. It is the emission of fossil fuels, and fossil fuels include, let's say, usage of coal as well. If we talk about United States of America, so they are dependent on usage of coal for meeting their energy need. Similar is the case with India. Many countries are dependent on usage of coal for meeting their energy targets, okay, for, let's say, like, meeting their energy target. This is the thing. So in this article, finally the author says that there are no timelines yet, only consensus that all fossil fuels need to be done away with to prevent global temperatures from rising further. Okay, so they have not set a deadline, they did not set up a time period that by this time we are going to phase out the fossil fuels. They have, however, they have consensus that it is an important activity, right? So without a deadline they have done it. This is the thing. So with this, let us quickly move to another article. We are going to discuss another issue in detail, right? So name of this article is How Will Article 70 Verdict Impact Federalism? So this topic is relevant from Indian polity point of view. Okay, so this topic is important for GS paper 2 of the mains exam under polity section, under Indian polity section, Indian polity and constitution. So let's quickly understand about this topic. So I'll be little brief in this topic. We are not going to discuss, let's say, in detail very much, but like we are going to discuss the most important let's say thing related to this article. How will Article 370 verdict, how will Article 370 verdict impact federalism, impact federalism. So we are going to discuss about this, but the core issue in this topic, right, core issue is two. One of the core issue is we are going to discuss in detail about what is Article 370 or what was Article 370. Second important issue that we are going to discuss is related to federalism, right? What is federalism? What are different types of federalism that we are going to discuss, right? So here, what is the context why this particular article is, why this topic is in news? It is because of a recent Supreme Court judgment. Okay, Supreme Court of India has recently given a judgment, and this judgment pertains to Article 370 of the Constitution. Okay, it pertains to Article 370 of the Constitution of India. Of the Constitution of India. I have just written COI. You just need to understand it is related to Constitution of India. So when we talk about Article 370 of the Constitution of India, this article is connected with the special status, right, of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Special status of the state of, erstwhile state of Jammu and Kashmir. So when we talk about the state of Jammu and Kashmir, what has happened? Like, what was the Supreme Court looking at? So for this, we need to understand about some timeline. Okay, we need to understand about some timeline associated with this topic. Okay, we need to understand about some timeline. So what has happened? First of all, to understand the timeline, let me draw a quick map of Jammu and Kashmir. Okay, we will understand this thing through a map of Jammu and Kashmir. So let me draw the north portion of India. So just to understand that this is, let's say, like earlier, this was part of, this is Jammu and Kashmir. Let's say, like, the northern portion of India is Jammu and Kashmir. So what has happened? Let us understand timeline. Number one timeline is October, right, 1947. What happened in October 1947, right? So this is the first period of the timeline. What has happened? Jammu and Kashmir, here Maharaja, right, Maharaja Hari Singh from Jammu and Kashmir, right, from Jammu and Kashmir, has signed an instrument of accession. What he has done, he has signed an instrument of accession with India. right? Instrument of, this is known as instrument of accession with India. This is what happened in October 1947. Maharaja Hari Singh came, he discussed with the Prime Minister of India, he had meeting with the Prime Minister of India, and finally he has signed an instrument of accession. So what is instrument of accession? We are going to discuss about it. What was the need of signing instrument of accession? We are going to discuss about it. So the thing is, soon after India got independent, right? So like, Mountbatten came, he came up with a proposal of let's say like, two dominions. One will be India, other will be Pakistan. So like, that was agreed upon, and all the princely states who would join, right, India or Pakistan, so they could join free will. So most of the princely states had joined India, some of them joined Pakistan, but like, Jammu and Kashmir decided initially that it's not going to join either the dominion of India or dominion of Pakistan. But soon after some time, right, within few months, Jammu and Kashmir has seen an influx of terrorist activities, like, they were being attacked from the Pakistani side. Since they were being attacked from the Pakistani side, so they needed what? They needed security, they needed safety. And for security and safety purposes, they have come to India, right? And like the Maharaja Hari Singh from Jammu and Kashmir, basically like, he has signed an instrument of accession. Maharaja Hari Singh himself was a Hindu person, but most of the citizens who were there in Jammu and Kashmir, most of the people, they were Muslims. So he has signed an instrument of accession with India. Before signing instrument of accession, it was a sovereign territory, means like it had an element of sovereignty. But soon after they signed the instrument of accession, it means they, let's say like, willingly they have signed, they have ratified that now they are ceasing to be sovereign. This is what is decided by the Supreme Court judgment. We are going to discuss about it. So instrument of accession had many elements, like, government of India has given some kind of a special status to Jammu and Kashmir that they can decide their internal matter in many areas except three important things: currency, foreign relations, and their security. Okay, currency, foreign relations, and their security or their defense will be taken care of by India. That was the thing. So some special privilege was given to Jammu and Kashmir, and this privilege was, let's say like, to give official or formal approval for this, right? Government of India has enacted this thing under Article 370 of the Constitution of India. Okay, Article 370 of the Constitution of India. They have included the provisions over here. So Article 370 of the Constitution of India talks about the special provisions that have been granted to the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So at that point of time, Jammu and Kashmir was a state, so it, let's say like, had a constituent assembly. That constituent assembly, let's say like, was in the process of drafting a constitution for the state of Jammu and Kashmir. So that constituent assembly, so in Article 370, they have mentioned that constituent assembly will have role in taking a decision, let's say like, in recommending to the President of India that whether this Article 370 will be inoperative or not. Means like at that point of time, it was considered to be a temporary provision. But what has happened after some time? So since the Constituent Assembly ceased to, let's say like, stay, soon after, let's say, enacting the Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir, came the State Legislative Assembly. But the thing is, there is a distinction between the Constituent Assembly and State Legislative Assembly. Constituent Assembly was there before, during the drafting process of the Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir. After the Constitution was enacted, the Constituent Assembly became what? Functus officio. Okay, so this is the thing. So Constituent Assembly, Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir, after enacting a constitution or after drafting a constitution, it became something which is known as functus officio. Functus officio means this Constituent Assembly had the function of drafting the constitution. After the constitution was drafted, this body ceased to operate. And since this body ceased to operate, it does not have any further authority to redraft the constitution of Jammu and Kashmir or to recommend any changes over there. So after the Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir was enacted, then what happened? Then came the State Legislative Assembly in Jammu and Kashmir. Then State Legislative Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir was integrated into India as a state, right? State Legislative Assembly have been given authority to legislate for the matters of the state, so it was considered to be a part of federal structure of India. So in India we have a quasi-federal structure. So if we talk about the concept of federalism, let us now understand about the concept of federalism, right? So we are going to discuss about concept of federalism. So the thing is, like, I'll make you understand about concept of federalism through two examples. In one case, let's say like we have United States of America. In the other case, let's say we have India. So in United States of America, they have a fully federal system. Okay, they have a federal system. In India, we have a quasi-federal system. What? We have a quasi-federal system. We are going to understand the distinction between them. In case of federal system, what happens? Let's say there is a big, there is a big territory. Inside that big territory, there are smaller, let's say regions, smaller regions. So these smaller regions that are there inside the big territory, right? These smaller regions that are there, right? These smaller regions also have the authority, power to make laws for themselves. Means like, the entire unit, the bigger unit, right? They have the authority to legislate. They will have a constitution. The constituents of it, they will also have equal power. Means like, they are also very powerful as that of the federal system, as that of the whole system. But in case of India, although we have a federal structure, but it is quasi-federal in the sense that there is a unitary bias. Means whenever the central government legislates something, right? So it will have always more authority, more power as compared to a legislation that is made by state government. So in India, to give effect to the quasi-federal structure, so we have enacted the 7th schedule in the Constitution of India. So the 7th schedule in the Constitution of India talks about the federal structure. So we have created 3 lists. What? We have created 3 lists. First list is known as state list. Second list is known as the central list or union list, right? And third is, let's say, concurrent list. Okay, I'm just writing this thing just for your purpose. So in a state list, let's say there are areas, there are subject matters, right? In these subject matters, the state governments will have the authority to make legislation. In case of union list, right, the union government will have the authority, right? Union government will have the authority to make legislation. And in case of concurrent list, the state government as well as union government can make legislation on these subject matters. But whenever something clashes, the legislation that is made by the union government will prevail in case of concurrent list. So from here we get the notion that there is a unitary bias in India. Unitary bias means bias towards the union government, right? So that's why in India it is considered to be a quasi-federal system. So we have quasi-federal system, all right? So the thing is, the judgment that was delivered by the Supreme Court of India related to this Article 370. So is this judgment, will this judgment have any impact on the federal structure of the country? This is what is being debated or discussed through this article, right? It says, how will Article 370 verdict impact federalism in India? How it is going to impact the federalism in India? To understand this, we have understood what do we mean by federalism in India. Now, when we talk about the federalism in India, what has happened? Like we need to, let's say, like we have the institutions of in India also that protects the federalism. What are the institutions? One of the most prominent institution is the judiciary, right? Is the judiciary. So judiciary means there are roles of the judiciary, and the Supreme Court of India is at the topmost level in India, right? So this is the, let's say, like, highest level court in the country. Supreme Court of India has given a judgment related to Article 370, right? Article 370, and in Article 370 judgment, right, Supreme Court of India has decided clause by clause whatever were, let's say, like, whatever were challenged, as whatever were challenged. What were challenged? So we are going to discuss about that also. So first of all, what we have discussed today, we have discussed about this particular thing, which is, let's say, timeline. This is October 1947. Since then, the state of Jammu and Kashmir has, let's say, like, enjoyed what they have enjoyed. They have enjoyed a special status. Let's say, like, special status according to the Constitution of India, and, like, they were allowed to have their own constitution and all. And Article 370 in the Constitution of India was considered to be a temporary provision. It was there. But what has happened in 2009, right? So when we talk about timeline, just under timeline, right, as we are discussing, in 2019, right, under that timeline, in 2019, what has happened? So we are going to discuss about that. So in the state of Jammu and Kashmir, at that point of time, there was a kind of coalition government, a government of two different, let's say, parties. On one side, there was a party like BJP or NDA, and on the other side, there was a party, let's say, PDP, I think, right? So it is People's Democratic Party, which was led by Mehbooba Mufti, okay, Mehbooba Mufti. So what has happened? There was rift between these two parties in 2019. After rift between these two parties, BJP has, let's say, taken back its power. So, like, they have, let's say, like, did not support it further, and then they have implemented governor's rule. What they have done? They have enacted governor's rule in the state, and soon after governor's rule, they have imposed president's rule in the state, right? They have imposed president's rule in the state. And after imposing president's rule in the state, they have done multiple changes. Number one, so this was number one thing, this was number two thing. Then third, what they have done is they have bifurcated the state. Earlier it was a single state, the state of Jammu and Kashmir. They have bifurcated the state, and Jammu and Kashmir was, let's say, converted into two union territories. Number one, Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir. Number two, Union Territory of Ladakh, right? Union Territory of Ladakh. So the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir will have a state legislative assembly. Union Territory of Ladakh will not have a legislative assembly. So this is the third change that they brought. After this, right, before this, what they have done, they have taken away the statehood of Jammu and Kashmir. They have converted this thing. So these things were being challenged, and the manner in which they have implemented, the central government has implemented this thing, was, let's say, steps were being challenged in the Constitution of India, that they did not follow the due process, right? They did not follow the process that is established by law, okay, the procedure that is established by law. So the thing is, the Supreme Court of India has decided that the provision under Article 370 was a temporary provision, and the President has the final authority to, let's say, do away with Article 370 of the Constitution of India, even without having concurrence with the, let's say, the now defunct, the Constituent Assembly of Jammu and Kashmir, because Constituent Assembly ceased to operate soon after the Constitution of Jammu and Kashmir was enacted. So this is the thing, and the Supreme Court judgment have also clarified that the thing is, similar special provisions are given under Article, let's say, under Article 371, 371 I to J, something like that. So there are many such articles under 371, under which many states in India have been given a special status. For example, the state of Assam, there are autonomous tribal councils, there are many states in India that get some kind of special status under the Constitution of India. So if special status that is given to Jammu and Kashmir is interpreted in a manner that it had an element of sovereignty, right? That will be wrong. The Chief Justice of India said clearly that will be wrong, because a special status is given to different states, but there is a special status and some degree of autonomy is given. That does not mean that they have an element of sovereignty. This is what is let's say clarified in this article. So the thing is, this article says that the taking away the statehood of Jammu and Kashmir, was that a right step? I mean, statehood was taken away and it was carved into 2 union territories. So here also the Supreme Court of India clarified that this can be done by the central government under Article 3 of the Constitution of India. In the Constitution of India, we have Article 3 of Constitution of India. This article let's say permits the central government, right, to let's say do something with the boundary of a state. Means its boundary can be diminished, its boundary can be extended, one state can be divided into multiple states and all. However, let's say the Chief Justice of India did not go into much detail related to this. So basically the central government of India has promised that they are going to bring back the statehood to Jammu and Kashmir. But the thing is, statehood will be brought back, but Ladakh will not be integrated into it. And the Supreme Court of India asked the Election Commission to conduct an election by 30th of September 2024 in the state of Jammu and Kashmir after the statehood is brought back. So this is the thing, this is the article. So finally in this article the author says that the Supreme Court said that the views of the state legislature regarding the proposed reorganization of a state are not binding on the parliament. Okay, so Supreme Court said that the views of the state legislature, right, regarding the proposed reorganization of a state are not binding on the parliament. So is this thing a dent on the federalism of the country? This is yet to be seen. Okay, because views of the state legislature must be taken into consideration, right, before let's say doing away with a state and all. Now we have another article. We are going to discuss about this article. It says, why has Hungary blocked European Union aid to Ukraine? Now to understand this topic will be little quick. Okay, so it is, let's say, another topic. This is topic number 3. Why has Hungary, okay, this is Hungary, it's name of a country. Why has Hungary blocked European Union aid to Ukraine? Let's understand about this topic quickly. So to understand this, we need to understand what is European Union. So European Union is a block of country. Block means it is an association of various countries. As of now, there are 28 countries in European Union. So European Union is an association of countries, and here let's say initially when European Union was formed, so originally it had 6 members, right? Originally it had 6 members, and later on, let's say new members got added. And to add a new member, on an average it takes 9 years. Means 9 to 10 years. It can be less than that, it can be more than that, but on an average it takes 9 years. Now what is happening? As we all know, Russia-Ukraine war is happening. Russia versus Ukraine, I am writing. Russia-Ukraine war is happening. And since Russia-Ukraine war is happening, Russia is a very big country. They have huge amount of resources, right? They have military capability, and they have been fighting the war against Ukraine for a long time. It's been more than a year, more than 1.5 years. And Ukraine being a very small nation, so they have been receiving aid. Aid means military support. They have been receiving military support from United States of America, from European Union, etc., from many countries around the world. Right, but the thing is, European Union was also supporting it was also supporting Ukraine by giving them some, let's say, financial support to Ukraine. but let's say around 50 billion euro, right, or 50 billion US dollar around. So that had to be given to Ukraine, but this thing has been blocked by Hungary. Hungary is a member of, it's a member of European Union, okay, it's a member of European Union. So what has happened, any bill, any finance that is extended to any third country, any country which is not a part of the European Union, this has to be passed through the legislature of every country, through their parliament, okay. So like it has to be passed through the parliament of Hungary also. But Hungarian Prime Minister has said that we are not going to support this particular further funding to Ukraine. Why they are not going to support? Because the thing is, like, you know, European Union earlier pledged that it is going to support Hungary for its causes, and like, you know, they had to give some funding to Hungary. But that funding has been stalled for a long period of time and they did not receive that funding. And yesterday also there was an article, that article talked that, like, you know, Hungarian Prime Minister said, first our dues by the European Union must be cleared, only then we are going to look into this particular thing. And in this article they have said that the Hungary's Prime Minister, I mean, like, he is very close to Russia, right? He is very close to Russia. So he is an ally, ally means ally, the friend of Russia. So that's why it is not supporting the funding for Ukraine. This is the thing. So in this article they have just discussed this issue. So with this, let us now quickly move to another article. It says India and Oman in talks to sign an economic partnership agreement. So Oman, as we discussed earlier, like in our yesterday's mapping topic, is a country in the Gulf region, right? So Oman is a oil-rich country. So around 7 lakh Indian citizens are located in Oman. So they are doing their business, so they are doing their livelihood, they are there. India and Oman had deep, let's say, like, you know, connection or ties. So before this ruler, right, there was another ruler in in Oman. That ruler in Oman had very, let's say, close bonding or close ties with, let's say, like, you know, with India, with the previous Prime Minister of India. And this ruler of Oman, his name is Sultan Haitham bin Tariq, okay, Sultan Haitham bin Tariq. He took charge in 2020. Why he took charge? Because the previous Sultan had died. His name was Sultan Qaboos. He passed away, and after then he came into power. Since his predecessor also had close ties with India, and he is also developing close ties with India. So it has happened in the last 26 years, means, like, you know, from last 26 years, none of the ruler of Oman came to India. So this is the first time in last 26 years that he visited India, and India and Oman are going to, let's say, like, you know, like sign multiple economic ties. And the thing is, they are going to like, you know, have a tie related to agreement on money laundering, like, you know, prevention of money laundering. This is from India. There will be an unit which is known as Financial Intelligence Unit of India, and from Oman it will be National Center for Financial Information, and they will work in close cooperation with one another to prevent money laundering in their country. Okay, so like yesterday, the ruler of Oman, his name is Sultan Haitham bin Tariq, he visited India. Okay, this is the thing. Then we have another article. This article says shipping farms suspended, right? Red Sea traffic altered, Yemen rebel strikes. Basically what has happened, so we discussed about Yemen. This is the country. So today we discussed about Gulf of Aden, which is to the south of Yemen, and it is, let's say, to the north of Somalia or Horn of Africa, right? It is near to Horn of Africa, we discussed. So in Gulf of Aden, whatever, let's say, maritime shipping vessels, means like they can be cargo ships, they can be naval ships. So whatever shipping vessels are passing through, right, from Yemen, there is a rebel group, right? These rebel group, they are known as Houthis. Okay, they are known as Houthis. So these Houthis, basically what they are doing, any ship that is passing through Gulf of Aden or Bab el Mandeb Strait, so they are attacking on that ship. And since they are attacking on that ship, they are let's say, capturing those ships. So the shipping companies, the companies that operate the ships, right, that transport goods, those companies have halted their operation, they have suspended their operation, because their operation is not being allowed to happen smoothly. Passes through the ships is not allowed to happen easily. So that's why they have halted the operation. Why it is important? Because, like, these two shipping companies are the world's two largest shipping firms. One of them is known as Maersk, another is known as Hapag-Lloyd. Okay, Hapag-Lloyd. These are the world's two largest shipping companies. They have halted their operation through this region, okay, Gulf of Aden, Bab el-Mandeb, Red Sea, and etc., because of the rebels of Yemen. This is the thing, okay. So there are many other things as well. So it is why they are doing it, because the Houthis are being supported by Iran, and Iran is against the Russia, Israel-Hamas war. Iran wants that Israel should suspend all its military operation from the Gaza Strip. But since they are not doing it, so, like, they have started doing, let's say, some retaliatory activities somewhere else. So with this, let us now quickly see the map of Red Sea. So here in this article, they discussed about Red Sea as well, right? So they have mentioned Red Sea. So let us discuss about which countries share their boundary with Red Sea. So if we talk about to the north over here, to the east side, one is Yemen, second is Saudi Arabia, third is Jordan. Jordan does have a little bit boundary over here, but like this is part of Red Sea, but this region is not known Red Sea, it is known as Gulf of Aqaba. So if we just, let's say, like, enlarge it, to the right of it we have Gulf of Aqaba, and to the left of it we have Gulf of Suez, okay. And this peninsula is known as Sinai Peninsula. It is known as Sinai Peninsula. And from here we come across Suez Canal, and this Suez Canal connects it to Mediterranean Sea, okay. It connects it to Mediterranean Sea. All right, this is the thing. So to this side we have seen Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Jordan, and this is Israel. Israel also has some border with Gulf of Aqaba. And if we talk about Sinai Peninsula, this is part of Egypt, okay. This is part of Egypt. Sinai Peninsula is part of Egypt. Then we have Sudan. You see, Sudan has this much border. Then seventh is Eritrea, and then we have Djibouti, right? Djibouti has very small border like that. So these are the countries that that surround the Red Sea region, okay. So from mapping point of view, I had taken this article, right? Whatever is happening, that's not much of importance for UPSC, but, like, mention of Red Sea becomes important. So we need to go, let's say, and understand this thing. Then we have a science and tech related topic, science and technology topic. It says CT scan associated with increased risk of blood cancers. So as we know, many patients go through CT scans, right? Because they have one or other ailment, and doctor asks them to go for CT scan so that they can diagnose the patient properly. And recently some research was carried out, and according to those research, that a person who goes through CT scan, it is likelihood that that person may develop some kind of cancer in later part of his or her life. And these cancers can be related to blood cancer. So in this article, they have, let's say, studied, right, nearly 9.5 lakh individuals who underwent CT examinations before the age of 22 years in 276 hospitals in 9 European countries were followed up. Okay, they have done a follow-up to those patients, and many of those patients were later developed cancer. Okay, so 51% of the cases were younger than 20 years at diagnosis, and whereas 88.5% were younger than 30 years. Means, like, the cancer related cases, 51% of these cases were related to those people who were, let's say, who had gone through CT scan in the last 20 years, and 88.5% in last 30 years. Means, like, within a span of 20 to 30 years, or maybe less than let's say, like, 10 years also, people may develop cancer. Less than 10 years is not the age of the patient, it's the time after you go through the CT scan. This is one. Okay, so it says those patients who undergo CT scan, they may develop cancers. And at the same time, in this article, it mentions that a patient who is asked to go for CT scan, if they don't go for CT scan, that's also a very problematic situation, because doctors will not be able to diagnose that patient for the let's say like ailments that that person may be having, and that will also hamper his or her, what we say, like like treatment plan. So safety measure, it says denying to undergo CT scans needed for diagnosis, needed for disease diagnosis is also harmful. Okay, this is the thing. So it's related to science and technology. Then we also have another topic from science and technology section itself. It says mapping illegal pangolin poaching from Africa to Asia. As we know, pangolins, right? Pangolins are found in India also, it is found in China, and pangolins have been asked by UPSC, right? You need to understand its IUCN status, International Union for Conservation of Nature. So IUCN maintains a red list of threatened species, and in the red list of threatened species, it has categorized those species, let's say under 7 different categories based on the threat level that these species are facing. So this species that is facing highest level of threat, it is known as critically endangered, then endangered, then let's say little lesser is vulnerable, then we have least concern, then there are species that have already gone extinct. So what you need to do, you need to understand about what is the IUCN status of pangolin. Simply do a Google search and let's say note down the IUCN status of pangolin. So what has happened? So based on genomic analysis, researchers reveal illegal pangolin trafficking routes from origins in Africa to markets in Asia. Okay, so people have done research to understand about how pangolins are being illegally traded across the world. And trade in, let's say like these kind of protected species are prohibited under a convention which is known as CITES, Conservation of Species, right? From trade across the border. So there is a CITES convention also. So under this, these species are protected. So another article, very short quick article from Science and Technology, that says daydreaming. So what happens when people do daydreaming? This study was not done on human beings, it was done on mice, basically a kind of, let's say we can say rat or mice. So they have done this study. So what daydreaming does is, daydreaming actually, let's say like increases the plasticity of the brain. Daydreaming increases the plasticity of the brain. Plasticity means the ability of the brain to, let's say like rewire itself for the changed situation or changed scenario. Okay, so in this article they have mentioned this particular thing, that like so daydreaming generally shapes or rewires the brain. Okay, this is the thing. Okay, so like a study was conducted, right, on the brains of mice. Okay, visual cortex on the brains of mice, while the animals remain in a quite waking state. Means like animal is awake, but that animal is not doing anything. So during that time, whatever the animal thinks, so it actually like helps the animal to rewire his or her brain. This is what is studied. Then we have another last article for the day. It says Navy deploys plane warship after vessel reports hijack in Arabian Sea. So some vessels have been hijacked, okay, hijacked in Arabian Sea. As we understand, Arabian Sea is located, let's say like let me draw a quick map of India. So this is, let's say, peninsular India. To the west of peninsular India, we have Arabian Sea. We have Arabian Sea. To the east of it, we have Bay of Bengal. Okay, we have Bay of Bengal. So what has happened? Some vessels have been hijacked in the Arabian Sea. So after that, the Indian government have deployed, right, the naval vessels to safeguard these, let's say like these vessels. This is what is mentioned. Other some factual detail is also mentioned, because like the Navy swung into action after receiving a May Day message distress call on the United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operation portal on December 14. The vessel MV Rune indicated that 6 pirates had illegally boarded it. the official said. Okay, some people have boarded on the vessel and they tried to hijack the vessel. So that's what I mean, like, it has been reported to Indian Navy. And Indian Navy is, let's say, like, taking proper steps so that an hijack activity can be averted. Okay, this is the thing. So that will be all from my side for the day. Thank you so much everyone for attending today's session. I hope you have a good day ahead. Thank you.